Next, we're going to start talking about site. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to talk about the different site tools in Revit. Revit is not a good program to do an advanced site development package. There are other programs that are more capable of doing complex sites, such as AutoCAD 3D Civil. But we're going to create a very simple site plan. We will create a topography object from scratch and add other site elements. Once the topography object is created, the grade line will automatically show up in the building and the wall sections, interior elevations, and the site plans. The sections will even have the earth pattern filled in below the grade. As with other Revit elements, you can select the object after it's created and set various properties for it, such as surface, material, etc. One can also return to sketch mode to refine or correct the surface. This is done in the same way most other sketched objects are edited, by selecting the item and clicking edit on the options bar. So if we go into the Revit real quick and we go here to massing and site, here is where you're going to find all your site tools. If you want to place a component in your site, just like with doors and windows, you need to use this site component manager. It just works much smoother to be able to do that. So before we can do any of this, we need to understand what all of the different parts of this are talking about. When we talk about topo surface, this creates a 3D surface by picking points. We're going to specify the elevations of each point picked, or by using line work within a linked AutoCAD drawing that were created at the proper levels. So this is going to show us our site with it going up and down. Now again, we're going to go with a fairly flat site just because it makes it much simpler. But again, you can put valleys, you can put hills, you can put berms, you can put all kinds of different things into your topo surface. A subregion. This allows us to take the topo surface and break it into other areas. So we're going to do that. Like, we're going to create our topo surface first. We're going to put grass on it. Then we're going to make subregions for our parking, sidewalks, and things like that. So that is what the subregion is going to be for. There are some other tools that we're really not going to get into, but you need to know that they are available. We have split surface. This tool is similar to subregion tool, except that the result is separate surfaces that can intentionally or accidentally be moved apart from each other. If a split surface is selected and deleted, it results in subtraction or a void relative to the original topo surface. So it will take pieces out if you split it. Merge surfaces. After a surface has been split into one or more separate surfaces, you can merge them back together. Only two surfaces can be merged together at a time. The two surfaces to be merged must share a common edge or overlap. Graded region. This tool is used to edit the grade of the topo surface that represents existing site conditions, and the designer wants to use Revit to design the new site conditions. This tool is generally only meant to be used once. When used, it will copy the existing site conditions to a new phase and set the existing site to be demolished in the new construction phase. The newly copied site object can be modified for the new site conditions. Again, this is a little bit more complex than what we are going to be getting into. If you've been in the residential class, you know that there is a property line tool, and that property line only shows up in the plan views, but we use that to define our property area. Building pad. Sometimes the grass likes to come up into our buildings, even if we have floor slabs in there. We can add a building pad underneath so it subtracts the grade out from below the building. If you tend to get grass inside your building, let me know and I will show you how to use the building pad. Parking component. These are parking stall layouts that can be copied around to quickly lay out parking lots. Several types can be loaded which specify both size and angle. I prefer that you go with 90-degree parking. If you try to do angled parking, it's a lot more complex. It takes up a lot more space. So it's best to use 90-degree parking. It will make it much easier for you. There are lots of site components, items like benches, dumpsters, things like that you can place on your topo surface. If our site sloped a lot, we'd have to be really careful to go in and make sure that our object is actually sitting on the ground. So once in a while we're going to have some issues. You may have some issues with some of your parking striping, depending on how much slope you put on your site, looking like it's floating, cars maybe looking like they're floating, things like that. But we're going to keep it fairly flat, so you should not have too much trouble with that. You can actually label the contours. Again, we are not going to do that. There are some site settings that you can go in and set, and again, we're not really going to get into this. You can set how often you want to see your contours, things like that. So again, this is all part of this if you want to read through it. Poche base controls the depth of the section views relative to the grade line, property data, section graphics, all kinds of different things that we can do. So those are your main site tools, and basically what we're going to be using is we're going to be using the topo surface, we're going to be using the property line, we're going to be using the site component, and doing subregions and creating all of the elements for our site, and that will be in the next video.